Hoops through life. Hoops through life.
Welcome to another episode of Hoops Through Life, a podcast where we discuss the women's basketball collegiate recruiting process and transition from high school to college. I'm your host, Elsbeth Bierman. Our guest today is Coach Stephanie Norman. Stephanie played for 4 years at Arizona State. She started her coaching career in 1990, and she has experience as a graduate assistant at Hawaii and experience as an assistant at the University of British Columbia, Oregon, Oregon State, and Vanderbilt. And she is currently the associate head coach at the University of Louisville. Stephanie was named in the 2020-2021 WBCA Assistant Coach of the Year at the Division I level, and she was recently named to the A Step Up Assistant Coaches Hall of Fame class of 2024. Stephanie, thank you so much for being here.
Glad to be here.
Awesome. Let's just jump into it. So we're almost into July, so I'm sure this is at the forefront of your brain, but what is the first thing you notice about a student athlete when you're watching them play? What draws you in?
Well, first of all, I know who I'm going to see at this point. So my eyes are on the kids that I've seen as youngsters. So we've accumulated a list of young people, whether that's by our own two eyes, and when I say our, I mean our staff, or it's by, say, a scouting service that has told us about some young kids. We formulate that list, put it together, go to these different events, and then put our eyes on those particular kids. Now, there's always space for young student athletes that we've never seen before, that we just discover. Many times when I don't have a particular game to watch, I'll just start walking around and looking and seeing who's playing, what's out there. And obviously, at first, tall young women capture my eye if I have not seen them before. And so I'll stop and pause and watch for a little bit. But for kids that I've never seen before, the things that capture my eye are the ones who give maximum effort, who have a presence on the court. Obviously, your athleticism or your skill set has to stand out amongst your peers. We're at a top 10 institution. We've played for 4 Final Fours, 12 Sweet 16. So, I'm not really looking for just the hardworking kid that, is a great teammate. Those are all great qualities, but you have to, the kids that I'm looking for are dominators and not participators. So they have to be something special. Their skill set has to be above average. And then once that is established, then the intangibles come in. What kind of teammate are you? How coachable are you? How do you treat your teammates when you come off the floor and do something that's probably not what your coach wanted? How do you handle the stress? How do you keep your composure? When plays are being made, are you talking trash or are you quietly confident? Those are elements that I think separate the elite from the good. Good to great matters to us.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you know pretty much who you're going to look at. What ages are you looking at this July?
Yeah,
or
so
classes, I should say.
Yeah, everything from, I would say, probably about 8th grade on. Now, obviously, if they're that young, there'll probably be a day 3 look at, because I really need to get my eyes on the 25s right now that we're trying to make a decision on who to bring to campus. But I would say the biggest impactful side of eyes that I need to be on this particular year are the kids going into their junior year, so the 26s. The 27s and 28s are just bonus kids that I can watch to get them on a list and establish a recruitment of them. So many people at this time always ask about what position are you recruiting for the 26 class, for the 27 class? And I tell them if anyone can tell you that, they're crazy, because we don't even know what our roster is going to look like after the season's over. So my pool has to be large now. It can't be as specific as it used to be because of the fact that we have the transfer portal. And so I may think my roster is completely fine with my point guards or my centers or what have you. But then at the end of the day, if one leaves or a different one comes, I may not no longer need those positions. And so I can't tell kids anymore what I'm going to need a year from now. It doesn't make any sense to even try to do that. So we have to just establish a grouping of players at each position that we might need should it present itself. So what our roster looks like on paper You can't, as a recruit, you can't really evaluate that and go, oh, they need my position next year because we might not.
Hmm.
So it is very tricky to try to navigate this new era of recruiting.
Yeah, so yeah, everything has just kind of exploded and changed in the last couple of years. So when you're looking at like you're saying that good to great, those little intangible pieces, like what how do you all split those hairs between two kind of elite level athletes?
Well, I think if you're splitting hairs in terms of their talent level and they have all the intangibles, then I think it becomes how much that do they want us? How much are we feeling like you're invested in our program, that you actually are informed about what we're doing, the energy you bring on a phone call, your parents' involvement, the people in your circle, how energetic, how enthusiastic do they appear to be in the recruiting process? So, as much as we want kids, we want them to want us as well. So it's a two-way street. And sometimes I think kids and families just think it's us reaching out, but we want. So the separator will be at the end. If we're splitting hairs between two kids and we think they're equally talented and bring, you know, all the same attributes, it's going to be who we feel like really wants to be here and is committed to us. But I think personality traits matter. We don't recruit duds. So if you're a dud on the phone, you don't aren't inquisitive, you don't have good questions, that you're not invested in yourself. Those things matter. So we want kids that are motivated, that track well, that have a personality, that have a work ethic, that have good habits. I'm not as concerned as some people might think as kids with goals, because I'm more consistent with standards rather than goals. So what kind of habits are they forming? And how much do they love the game? Because if you don't love it at this level, it's going to be it's just not going to be a good fit, because you have to put more time than the NCAA allows us to get your game where it needs to be. We're competing for championships, so this isn't something that's for the faint of heart. You have to have a love affair with it, and if you don't, it's just probably not a good fit. So in all these conversations and talks, those are things that we're trying to establish is what kind of grit does this kid have? What kind of personality does she have? What kind of want to? Because we're recruiting the elite student athletes. So uh, it is when it gets to the top of these kids, it really is a matter of who's responsive, who wants it more, and who do we feel like would be a great fit.
Yeah, I love what you said about habits versus goals because you can have the greatest goals in the world, but if your habits are not good, like I feel like that's a better indicator of what they can accomplish. Because then it's just about, okay, you have decent habits or you know how to like what you're supposed to be doing, and now we can kind of focus you in what direction we think would be the best for you. So yeah, so I love what you said about that. But to the transfer portal, if you have a thought, you don't have to answer this if you don't want to, but what do you think is driving just kind of the craziness of shifting and moving year by year?
I don't know what the root of it is. I honestly, when it comes to NCAA rules, I don't, I may have an opinion whether I like them or don't, but I don't live in that space of I'm obsessed with it. Whatever they give me, I figure out the best way possible to deal with it. So I look at high schools right now. I think kids are transferring all over the place in high schools. Heck, I don't even know, one year to the next, the kid has gone to four high schools. Why would I think she wouldn't be transferring when she comes to our place? I think so much of it is of what our foundation is, and so if our families are okay with us just chasing things and not putting our roots down anywhere and fighting through the hard, as parents, I feel like we are probably doing our kid a disservice for moving her every single year, just chasing whatever it is you're chasing. Um, and so I think it more than anything, that's the root of it is that we're all as humans trying to find the next best thing. And sometimes it's right in front of us and we just don't see it. And we are very much a microwave society. So we want results really fast. And so if they're not coming, then I think it's just the easy thing to do is we just pick up and leave and don't really think of the time and energy and that the coaches have poured into some of these kids, and it can be devastating to some programs, and it in that aspect, it's really unfortunate. On the flip side, I think there's some good in it. Um, there actually there's a lot of good in it, and so it just depends on what angle you're coming from. But for us, it's a business decision now where we have to ask ourselves, our recruiting has changed because this was like the last cycle about 2 years ago that we could take a kid that I could project maybe 2 or 3 years out would play. Like I can see it coming, but we can't recruit that kind of kid anymore. Either they're ready or we can't recruit them anymore. We'll just pass and then wait till the portal.
Yeah, so how this is related, I think, but how do you all navigate like team culture in an environment where they're like a lot of times it's like leadership and then you teach them how to be leaders as they go through. Like how do you navigate team culture through this type of environment?
Yeah, I think you have to have a strategy that you've talked about as a staff. I don't think anybody can survive completely in the portal, and I don't think anybody in this day and age can survive completely in the high school realm. I think there has to be a balance of both, and that's what we've talked about is, know, we have 7 freshmen coming in this year, huge class, I think bigger than we've ever had since I've been here. But that's going to balance itself out because last year we had 4 or 5 portal kids. And so this year we have 1 portal kid and we had 7 high schoolers. So I think that's how you manage it is you have to just be continually cognizant of your roster and what it looks like and be able to pour into kids so that they do establish that culture, that identity that makes them, in our example, a Cardinal for life, because you not only want them for your 4 years, but you want them projecting on and being excited to be an alum and fired up about their team. So I think the bigger picture stuff matters too, and not just what they can do for you right now.
Hmm. Yeah, because it's hard all over. I agree that there are some good points about it too. But even from a student athlete perspective, you stay at one, let's say you go to 3 schools in 4 years. Like, how do you establish anything at a university like you're constantly moving, you're constantly like putting roots down somewhere and then you're leaving. And so from that angle, it's definitely difficult as well.
I mean, that would be a question you'd have to ask the student
Yeah,
athlete.
yeah.
Can't answer that for them because there's many that do. But as a program, you can decide whether in what circumstances, because there are, circumstances that kids have left certain institutions. We had one a few years ago who had 2 head coaching changes. Like the next school she went to had a head coaching change again. So it was 2 straight. And so, then she bounced to us the third time. And so you can't fault a kid for something like that. So I don't think there's a blanket statement you can put out that kind of encompasses everything that the portal is about. It's a case by case basis, and I think as a program, you just have to figure out what makes most sense as you navigate the recruiting picture moving forward. Because it is important to have those kids that understand this is the way we do things here, that excellence is the norm. It's not an option. It's not something that we talk about just every other day. We're on point every single day. And this is what Louisville women's basketball looks like. You have to have those kids in order to have a standard of excellence. So I think it's of value to make sure that you're balancing your program in that fashion.
Yeah, and I think most of the coaches that I've talked to, and I think I just heard this from you too, is like they use the portal as like you said, that kid where you can project 2 to 3 years, maybe they can make an impact here. And they're usually going after kids for the most part that they have recruited or have some sort of established relationship, as opposed to just cruising to see what's out there. Would you say that's the same for your program or?
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Here's what I think for mid majors. If you're everything when you talk about the portal, it's different for every program and where you're at. So if you're a mid major, low to mid major, you almost have to think you're the next JUCO. It's awful to say, but it's the truth. So if you go after kids and they might be out of your league per se, because we might not be recruiting them anymore because of the fact that I can't I can't recruit those kids that are a couple years away, so they go to school X and then they get really good. And after 2 years, they're like, oh, I want to test the market. I've killed this, conference, whatever. And I'm player of the year. Let me go see what I can do at the next step. When I speak with my peers about this that are in the mid-major, low to mid-major, the ones that are working within that framework and understand they may only have some of their kids for a couple of years, they're way more successful than the ones that are stressing out about how do I keep my kids. It's kind of like what I spoke to before. You just give me the rules and I'll figure out how to be successful within them. The portal is different for every program. The portal is different for a Final Four team than the portal is different for a mid-major. So I think every program has to evaluate where they stand in this portal mix because it's different for each one of us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes complete sense. And it's definitely, like you said, case by case basis. And I think that's why people struggle so much with thinking about the portal because it is different for everybody. And
Yes.
people like to put blanket things on things that are very nuanced. So you mentioned before, when you're going out, you know who you're looking for. When do student athletes typically get on your radar?
Oh, I would say for sure going into their 10th grade year, I have a pretty good handle on who the elite kids are in the country. But there'll be some surprises that happen or, kids in back gym 67 that I'll stumble upon. And I think, this process is about relationships. So I've been doing it a really long time and I have a lot of people that I lean into that will say, hey, coach, I've got this kid. She hasn't been out on the circuit yet. She's been playing soccer, but she's going to be really good. I'll take heed of that and I'll go find her and watch her. But I would say by their 10th grade year, I have a pretty good idea who the elite kids are. And that's not to say someone can't jump in there. But for this year, for example, when I head out this July, I'm building my base for the 27 class because I already know the 26 is who I'm looking at. It's unfortunate, but we just don't have time to go to random gyms and look at kids. If they haven't existed because I haven't made a call to a coach or I haven't looked on a scouting service and see that they're ranked pretty high, I don't have time to just walk around and randomly sit at kids' gyms. So I know a lot of them like send emails and want you to look at their stuff. It's just the time is not suitable to be able to go see all those kids who are interested in you. It's just really unfortunate because I already have a plan of attack set out for the kids that I already know about. So the people I trust in the club coaching and high school coaching is who I lean into to discover and find new young kids. And then I go and watch as much as I can and make a determination if that kid, the characteristics that we described earlier, fit our mold, and then we go for it.
Yeah, so when you're seeing those kids in 10th grade, and 11th grade, when you're seeing them play, and you mentioned you want to see those kids who are dominant on the court, what does that mean? Does that mean scoring 1,000 points or like kind of, can you break that down a little bit?
Yeah, I'll tell you what it doesn't mean. It doesn't mean taking bad shots.
Yeah. Yeah.
You'll get off the list faster than you'll get on the list when you're a ball hog and you take bad shots. And I know there's parents screaming in the stand, you need to shoot it. You got to shoot more. I'm looking for kids who understand the game, who can get people shots. That means a lot to us. If you enjoy passing as much as you enjoy scoring, I will stat some games, but not often. So I don't actually know exactly how many points you score. It's how you score. Do you take open shots? I just had a conversation with a kid who, is teetering on, I really like her, and then I don't. And I said, look, with 3 minutes left, you're the best player on the court, and you deferred. You passed up a great shot to get another kid who isn't as capable as you a shot because you're so worried about like people liking you. I don't care about being liked. I care about winning basketball games. So you have to have a mindset when you step out on that court that when it comes to crunch time, I got to be taking open shots. Now, I'm not telling you to force shots, but you have to understand, again, I'm looking for a dominating attitude and a dominating mindset. And so if you're deferring in crucial times and you're the best player and you've got good opportunities to shoot or drive or defend, whatever, then that's a red flag for me. That because if you can't handle it at your level, how would you handle it when we're trying to beat the elite teams in the country? So I'm looking for a mindset. I'm looking for, do you guard? Does it matter that you defend, that you just don't play Olay and give up as many points as you are getting on the other end? So many kids think it's all about me dropping 30, but if you can't stop anybody, I'm like, well, you're a role player. You can stand out there and make a bunch of threes, but I can't play you in significant minutes when it matters most because you can't stop anybody. So, maybe our roster need is a person like that. If that's the case, then we'd recruit her. But if we've already got that type of kid, we don't need another one of those. So that too, a lot of kids wonder why, like what school A, B, and C, why aren't they recruiting me? Maybe they already have you. It's nothing against you. It's just that they don't need that again. You have to diversify your roster. So what one school likes and what another one likes is two different things. And maybe I've already got an elite roster built. Maybe I need some role players that just freaking work hard, that are amazing teammates, that'll dive on the floor, that'll take charges, that are great leaders, but they're not dropping 30 points a game. What if I already have that? I just need some kids to fill in some spaces. I might not be recruiting, I might be a top 10 school, but I'm recruiting a top 50 kid. And you're like, why would you be recruiting her? Well, I've already got, some of the other kids that fit these niches. I can't have 10 high school All-Americans that all want 15 to 20 shots a game. It's just not going to work. So building your roster and navigating through that is so crucial. And you can't have kids that do all the same things or are all highly ranked. The best teams we've had here at Louisville have had 2 or 3 kids on that roster that were not even top 100 kids that ended up starting for us and doing great things because they didn't need to take 20 shots. They were all about getting other people's shots. So that's such an open-ended question on what teams have to manage a roster full of what makes most sense to you to build that championship caliber program. So it's not always the most talented kids that sometimes we'll go after. It's a need that we have.
So you said that you had a conversation with a prospective student athlete, and you told her like, this is kind of what I saw and this is what you did. So now are you going forward, like when you watch her again, are you like, oh, did she take my advice or did she not? And is that how you're moving through your end of trying to see if they're a right fit for you?
Absolutely. And so we have limited times that we can watch because, they're all over the country playing in all these events. And oftentimes we might just be at that event for one day. So I was like, it stinks that this is your one time to show me. And if you don't, I can only repeat what I see. So maybe the next 2 days you were doing all the things I was saying that you needed to do. But the day I saw you, it just didn't happen. I mean, it stinks, but that's how this system is set up. We go for 3 days, and oftentimes I'm not at the same event for 3 straight days. So either you show me something while you're out there or you don't, and that's it. It's the nature of the beast. Sometimes, look, I tell people this is not a perfect science. We make just as many mistakes in recruiting as we do get it right. So it is. You try your best to do your homework and see what your eyes can see, but at the end of the day, they have to come and perform and have all those qualities that we've talked about in order to step up and make a difference on your squad.
Mm-hmm. All right. So I have a few questions from a student athlete that I had a DM exchange with on X. And anybody who's listening, if you have any questions you want me to ask any of the coaches that I have on, please email or send me a DM. But she asked, what separates players who get offers from players who get recruited?
Yeah, that's a really deep question. And again, it depends on the level we're talking about. So I have a list of kids right now that I haven't offered. And then I have ones that we have. So much. Here's what I get. This is the one area that I really I struggle with because so many of these kids are just interested in getting offers so they can post them on social media. We are not a program that just throws out offers because you're a talented player. It's Captain Obvious. I could bring my mom out to a gym and she could watch a game and go, oh, Sally over there, she's really good. You should offer her a scholarship. But the problem is I don't know Sally yet. I don't know her parents. I don't know her circle. Um, I have to feel comfortable knowing who you are as a human being before we offer a scholarship, because we have a great culture and we've been here 18 years. This is our 18th year now, and we have gone to postseason play every single year. And so I know what winning looks like. But if I don't know who you are as a human being, then I can't, in good conscience, tell you that I'm offering you a scholarship, and you can say, okay, I'm taking it. And then you're the biggest turd and you come in our team and you're a cancer and try to ruin everything. I'm not going to do it. So I explained that to kids. I said, if you're on the hunt of just chasing offers and you don't want to talk to us anymore because we're not offering you on the first phone call, I'm not just throwing darts and hoping one sticks. And there are several programs out there that do that in hopes like, oh, I hope one of these really good players comes. Well, those programs typically aren't the elite programs. Elite programs are going to take their time, do their homework, talk to people, and find out what kind of human is this talented basketball player. So a relationship matters to us. So I typically would not offer a kid the first time I would see them unless I've like known. There was one kid, for example, I offered in the 7th grade because I coached her mom. So, I know the cloth that she's cut from, and I know her work ethic and her family values and all the things. So I've got no problem offering kids at that stage if I know them, and I can tell who's going to be really, really good. But I just think offers are nonsensical until you get down to the end of it, when people actually want you to be a part of their program. Because I could offer you a scholarship and then you could sit on the couch and eat bonbons for the next 2 summers and not do anything. That offer is not going to still be there. So it really is. Is it nice? Absolutely. Is it motivational? Absolutely. But does it mean anything? No, it means nothing.
Yeah. And so who are you talking to and what types of questions are you asking to find that more culture side piece of like, are they, you mentioned the word grit. Are they gritty? Like, what does their work ethic look like? Things like that.
Yeah, I want to know, how do they treat their teammates? Are they good leaders? How coachable are they? Do they get in the gym on their own? Are they the first to arrive, last to stay? Are they finishing at the top of their sprints? I've gone to practices before where the kid knows I'm there and it didn't matter to her that where she finished. I was like, off the list. Because like you have to have some pride. When you're chasing a championship, this stuff is hard. And if you don't have it in you to like compete like that on the daily in everything you do, because how you do anything is how you do everything. So if you don't care where you finish in your sprints and you're not a leader, and now maybe you're not physically capable of finishing first, I get that, but like you have to have some effort. So I talk to coaches about all of these things. Like, what's her family like? Do they have support from home? Are they in your ear all the time? Are they like just being a nuisance, or are they just happy for their kid to be on the team and clap for everybody? I watch their parents at these games, and we're just not going to take on crazy. It just we're too good, too advanced our program to have to endure something like that. It's just we're just not going to do it. So all of these things matter. I was watching a game the other day, and the kid kept turning around into the stands and looking at her dad, and the dad would shout something out. And so when I got her on the phone, I actually talked to her about it. I said, look, you have enough stress going on already that you don't need coaching from your parents. And then you're trying to talk to your teammates. Then you're trying to listen to your high school coach. I said, if at all possible, I would advise you to just keep focused on your teammates and your coach, because all this other distraction is putting things that are not in the game plan probably in your head. And then you're trying to perform for your parent, or it could be a club coach that's on the side screaming at you. I just think sometimes we overcomplicate things for these kids. And all of these little pieces matter when we're making a decision on which kid like we're going to go gas pedal down and which kid we'll back off from.
Yeah, so what are some things that you wish either high school or AAU coaches knew about college athletics or just the recruiting process in general?
I think they're pretty informed at this stage, quite frankly. But I lean into club and high school coaches that don't have a vested interest in where the kid goes. So they simply give me information and help the kid with the process, but they're not saying, hey, you need to go to Plantation Z State over there, because, I know the coach and they're really good. All I want to know is I want to earn the opportunity to coach this kid. I don't want anybody doing us any favors. I just want an open mind and a reference point, but I don't want any outside influences trying to help this or make this kid make a decision because the coach wants it to be that way. So yeah, I don't, most club coaches and high school coaches have a pretty good idea of this recruiting process. And if they don't, I'll try to educate them onto some of the things that we might be looking for. But I think my questions when I talk to them steer them in the right direction of what matters most to us.
Mm-hmm. So this is another question from that same student athlete. So how can student athletes best understand a program's culture when they're going through the recruiting process?
I think that it's really easy today. You can reach out to players on DM and just ask them. And again, what I caution is the ones that say everything is rosy, everything is great. Oh yeah, it's wonderful. Because it's not. It's hard. At this level, it's hard. And then sometimes you have kids that I weigh everything not wholeheartedly, but like some kids, look, well, you might have a toxic kid on your program and you happen to reach out to that one, and it's not the program that's the problem, it's the kid. And so sometimes their 2 cents might not be the perspective that you're looking for. So I would try to lean into club or high school coaches that happen to know these programs and go, hey, this coach is really tough. Now, if you're like you would thrive in this system, this might not be the best fit for you. So you might need to talk to some people because that coach is A, B, and C or whatever. I just think you need to do your homework and talk to as many people as possible. And then you have to anticipate, look, college is not high school. So you may do all of these like fun things in high school and put bows in your hair and sing Kumbaya and do all of that, but it's not the same. We do our best, obviously, for team bonding and culture building, all the things, but it's not high school. So if you're looking for like high school 2.0, that's going to be really hard to find. The competition level has stepped up. The expectations have stepped up. The commitment level has stepped up. So I think you have to be really poignant with your questions. And I think people that continually win are going to have a good culture. If you don't win, your culture is probably not very good. Like I look for consistency. So really good are going to have good cultures. That it just goes hand in hand. You don't win without good culture. You may win once in a while, but the programs that do it year in and year out, they got elite level leadership at the top. And that, if that is consistent, that's always going to stay the same. So to me, if I was a kid, above anything, I look for programs that are consistent,
Yeah,
consistent winners.
yeah, I can't wait to see some of Louisville women's basketball posts this fall where you all have bows in your hair and that's the team bonding that you're doing.
No, we won't be doing that, but we will do a lot of bonding stuff.
Yeah.
I think it's a bigger part. We actually have met about instead of trying to recruit new players, how do you recruit your own team? That's a whole different segment, and we're very cognizant of that. And so we definitely want to make sure these kids are loved on, that they feel appreciated, that they feel wanted, and that they're continued to be cared for. That's such a huge factor in today and why kids want to stay because they want to, commune. And so we're very cognizant of that. But I think if you have the same expectations of things you did in high school and you're like, well, that school didn't do this, or we didn't have a sleepover, or we didn't have like parents made us dinner on Tuesday nights, all those things, then I think you're going to be missing the boat. So it's just different. And again, it's different at different levels. So you have to figure out what suits you best.
Yeah, so last question from this student athlete, but what are the expectations you and your staff have of your captains?
Well, our captains, oftentimes we kind of let the cake bake when it comes to picking captains. I'm not going to lie, for us, it hasn't been a huge priority to establish captains in name only. I think what we're looking for is leaders, and that doesn't have to be someone that's named captain. So I feel like great leaders have their crap together both on and off the court. You can't be a great captain slash leader if no one wants to follow you in all aspects of your life. So it's difficult because you have to make tough choices. You might not be able to do some of the things that um, some other student athletes might do if you want to be in that position. People are depending upon you, and what a great blessing to be in a spot where people are counting on you. And so we have to groom these leaders. We have to have these conversations with our players. They attend workshops. They, fly all over the place to go to these leadership seminars. They have many, many conversations. But at the end of the day, you can never go wrong by doing what's right. And so I think leaders slash captains have to have a synergy with the coaching staff. They can't be afraid to like be up in their offices. We have couches. I have candy. I have all the things that everybody wants to come up and just hang out and we can talk shop. I think they have to have a pulse on the team. I think they have to not want to be liked per se all the time by their teammates, that they have to have a backbone and go, you know what, this behavior is not helping our team. I need to talk to coach about it. So it's not always the most popular thing to do, but sometimes as leaders and captains, you have to put the team above your own personal self-interest and go, look, there's some things going on you need to know about. And then there's some things, no, we don't need to know about. You guys can handle that on your own. I'm not looking for tattletales either. So I just think you need some maturity. You need some kids that value the program over themselves and the culture of the program over themselves, and they're not afraid to stand on business, as they say, and be about winning. So if there's conduct detrimental to our squad, they need to be able to handle it. If they can't handle it, they have to be comfortable talking to the coaches about it. And more than anything, they have to have their back porch clean. So if you're doing great on the basketball court, but as soon as you get off, you're like talking trash about your teammates or your coaches and complaining about things, and see, you're not a good captain and you're not a good leader. So I think that in a nutshell is what we're looking for when it comes to captains per se.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think it's worth repeating, knowing what to tell the coaches and what not to tell. Like, and that goes to knowing your coaches too. It's like
Yeah,
knowing what would actually bother them and what they would just look at you and be like, handle that. And it's like
yeah,
you want to be able to know and distinguish those two things.
yeah.
So with your teams and even some of the incoming kids, are there any skills that you've noticed have been lacking with younger players, or maybe they need a little bit more help with um, that in your experience in the past couple of years?
If I had to pick out one skill that could be something that I think needs to be emphasized more, I would think a mid-range game is something that sort of has dissolved. Everybody wants threes or attacking the rim. I'd love to see kids be able to change tempo off of ball screens and hit mid-range jump shots. So if I had to pick a skill, that would probably be it. I think some of the defensive stuff, again, no one gets in the gym to work on defense. So that's the hard thing. I don't like get up in the morning and go, oh, I'm gonna get 50 closeouts in today. But I definitely want to get in and get shots up. But I think the defensive aspect is something that is instilled in you. Defense is a want to. So again, trying to find those kids who have that extra oomph, that find a way on the court because they guard somebody, I think is a rare thing. And when you have it, you don't ever want to let go of those type of kids. But so I would say mid-range game and some grit and nastiness on defense is something that I think doesn't really translate straight from high school into college.
Yeah, and I think this can be applicable to all skills, but a reason that I really like defense is because if you're smarter, then you don't necessarily have to be the quickest, but you can still
Absolutely.
guard at a very elite level and guard players who might be a little bit more skilled than you, just if you're a little bit smarter than them. So
Yeah.
and then I think too, it has a lot to do with grit and just that no, like like you said, like take pride. Like I'm not going to let this person score. I'm not going to let this person get past me. And so it's a lot of a mentality as well. At
Yeah,
least I
I
think
really
so.
like another thing I really like when I watch games is if something happens to someone, say this kid like just beat me, and then I see that kid go, we're not letting this happen again. And she gets really mad about it. And she's like, look, I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that kid didn't just drive by me again or stick that three in my face. I love that because I'm not looking for perfect, but I am looking for pride. And so if things bother a player about like something just happened to me and I got to fix this, that to me shows maturity because you're thinking about your game. I love kids when you talk to them on the phone too that can self-evaluate and go, you know what, that wasn't my best game and this is why. I really don't care for coaches who gas these kids up and go, oh man, you had a great game. And they didn't. And then the kid's like, what are you talking about? Like, how would I trust you as a coach when you can't give me a fair assessment of what I did? So if their whole life they're just continually hearing about how all these great things that they've done, and no one ever gives them some honest feedback about like, hey, you did A, B, and C really good, but try working on these skills. That's going to help you be great. And I want you to be great. So this is why I'm telling you this. Some of these other coaches are just filling you, they don't even watch, they're not intentionally watching. And so I think that matters. The reception of that. If kids are like mad at me because I've picked apart their game, then I don't want to recruit them anyway because that's what they're going to receive. That's the elite level coaching that they are expecting when they arrive on campus, is that feedback, that film watching. So I want to see kids that have that pride that if something happens to them, that they don't let it happen again and again and again.
Self-evaluation definitely super important because then you're thinking like you said, exactly like you said, like you're thinking about your game. And to me, that inherently says, okay, I'm not happy, not that I'm not happy, but I'm not content with where I am right now and I want to get better. And so that self-evaluation is huge. So let's move on a little bit to the transition to college. Do you think, for the most part, high school student athletes are prepared for what collegiate athletics entails?
I do. And I'm speaking at the kids that we recruit at our level. I
Hmm.
mean, these days, honestly, most of the kids have a trainer. They have a strength and conditioning coach that they go see. They have a trainer outside of their high school and club coach. So they've got a lot of resources, more resources than say I ever had in high school. So that acumen is open for them to be able to explore. They have more information when it comes to their diet. They have more information when it comes to their sleep, their health. And then it just boils down to the choices that you make. Are you choosing to do the hard? It's real easy to sort of choose easy today, but then your hard has to come later when you're out of shape or you wonder why you're not getting whatever scholarship you're looking for. So with more technology and more information, these kids are becoming more and more equipped. We still do see every now and again one that hasn't lifted or doesn't have the resources to be able to do some of those things. But I would say for the most part, they're coming in well equipped and ready to go. And because again, those are the kind of kids we're recruiting because I can no longer recruit the kids that I think are 2 or 3 years out and have them sit the bench because they're just going to transfer. If they don't play, they're going to transfer. So I can't recruit those kids anymore. So the kids that we are recruiting at our level are all well equipped to play right away.
So then so it sounds like it's a fairly, for the most part, seamless transition because it sounds like you all do a lot of your homework on the front end to know
Yes,
that this is the type of student athlete who is going to thrive in this environment.
correct.
So what are maybe some of the growing pains that you see the first year athletes go through, if any, and it's okay if they don't have many, but I'm sure there are some growing pains that they go through as they're making their way into college.
Yeah, the one area probably is the expectations because these are all elite level athletes ranked really high for the most part. Now, there's some that might not be, but the expectations that maybe their parents or coaches or their friends, the pressure that they feel, the mental anguish, I think is where I find most of the kids struggle with the most of they're not performing like people think they should. They don't have patience in this process to understand they're just freshmen, that they're just learning. Um, so I would say the mental side of it and the pressure that's put on them by people who consider them more of a commodity than their child or their friend. So ROI seems to be a term that gets thrown a lot. And so these families have spent all these thousands of dollars on these kids, or they've got agents now. And then, the expectation is if I can get more money, then I have to perform. And if I don't perform, that pressure is on because I'm not going to get those deals. So it's a whole different ball game when you're tackling on all of this mental stuff. Physically and emotionally, I think they're more than ready to perform, but the pressure and the mental aspect of it is changing now, and so I think that's where some of these kids will struggle.
Yeah, I didn't look online and I should have, but do you all, I know some schools have like a sports psych on staff. Is that something that you all have or something that's available at the school?
Yeah, we actually, I think we have one of the largest mental health specialist teams in the country. We have, I think, eight mental health specialists at different levels too, which is important to have access to for our student athletes. And it's run through. We actually have a med school on campus, so it's run through the University of Louisville Hospital. So the access is seamless when it comes to that. And I love that the kids have different people. So if one of those, mental health specialists is not suiting whatever it is they need, they can switch to another person that might be more relatable. And obviously, there's different levels between, hey, I need some help on my free throws, I need focal points, all that. And so we have those people. And then obviously, some of them come in with deep-rooted issues that have been encountered since childhood, and they need something more. They actually need a physician. So we have that available too. And I think more and more schools and institutions are leaning into those type of healthcare specialists on staff because they're realizing that we just don't need doctors to fix our boo-boos, that we have to have people in line um, to help calm and ease the stresses that these kids are having to deal with on the daily basis.
Yeah, I think that's a wonderful resource, and I'm happy that the student athletes seem to be getting something out of it. All right, so I have a last couple of questions that I ask all of the guests who come on. So, what book or podcast would you recommend every incoming first year read before their first season begins, and why?
Well, I'm not going to lie. I'm a big reader, but I read a lot of fiction because I find that life throws enough at me at one time. I kind of need my space to like just live in fantasy land of something else that's happening, and rather than
I mean,
self-help
if you have
books.
if you have a fiction book to recommend, I'm sure that would be beneficial too.
Well, but I will tell you, I have given this book to players, and I'm not necessarily saying you need to read it. I do recommend is Atomic Habits. And that's kind of what I started with this podcast on about building habits and not goals. And it makes a lot of sense. And the players that have read it have kind of had aha moments. Just about because if you set goals and you meet your goal, that's great. But then if you stop doing the things that got you to your goal, then it really doesn't matter because your goals, whatever you achieved, is just going to disappear again. So also in our sport, so many times I find that if student athletes set a goal and you do everything in your power to get to that goal, but you still don't achieve it and you feel like a failure, it's a team sport. So things happen. There's bad calls, somebody gets injured, and all of a sudden you can't achieve your goal, even though you poured every ounce of energy and did all the things, and you still feel like a failure because you didn't achieve your goal. I think what we really need to focus on is our standards that with what we live by and how we handle our business. And if you have those habits, those daily habits, we talk about all the time, the wins will take care of themselves. So let's not put a goal out there per se that we're trying to attain and not talk about all the steps and have patience to get to there. So that's a book that I think just brings all of that into one space. And I've found that it's been helpful in my life. But the fiction book that I'm reading right now that I have a few pages left is Small Great Things, and it's a very powerful book. It has some elements of, well, the whole book is based on a race relational situation. And so it's been very unnerving and really cool all at the same time. So, author named, she's pretty famous, Jodi, I don't know how you say her last name, Picoult. Anyway, she has a lot of books, and I've enjoyed reading that fiction book. I've got about 3 or 4 ready to roll as soon as that one's done.
Nice. Yeah, Atomic Habits. I haven't read it in a couple years, but like when student athletes ask me for book recommendations, because they know that I like to read, I would say, well, it depends on what you're looking for. But if you want to like change anything about yourself or do anything, like that's always the book I recommend because I think just like you said, like those daily habits are super powerful. All right, so what's something about the recruiting process or transition to college that you believe that other coaches might disagree with?
Ooh, I don't know if there's anything they disagree with. I think there's some things they don't like per se. I think they don't a lot of coaches don't really like the collective and the paying the players. But again, I have no problem with it. We're not on the top of the food chain when it comes to the amount of money, but we're not at the bottom either. And so I look at more as how you frame it and the experiences that people have. So I guess a lot of people are anti that. Um, and I'm not really. You just give me the parameters with which I need to work in, and I'll figure a way to make the best of it. So I would guess if I had to say anything that people don't agree with something, it would be that.
Yeah, I've most of the coaches I've asked that question to, they say most coaches are pretty collaborative, so it's not
Mhm.
really anything that so I'm thinking about reworking that question, but yeah, so last but not least, any final words of wisdom?
Um, Wow. Well, I think I'll leave it with this one particular quote that I like that losers focus on winners and winners focus on winning. And that probably is my all-time favorite quote because I find student athletes, especially in this day of social media, and parents focus way too much on what other people are doing and oh, that kid doesn't deserve a high school All-American. That kid doesn't deserve to be ranked this way. I can't believe that such and such program took that player. Blah, blah, blah. My kid is better. She scored 18 points against Sally Smith, who is the number one player in the country. And my daughter held her to 10, and I could care less. Just focus on your path, your journey, you getting better, and quit worrying about things that you can't control. You can't control who's on the high school All-American team, the Jordan Brand team, all of that thing. It's an opinion of random people. So all you can be is the best version of yourself. So instead of focusing on winners, focus on winning the day, winning the process. Put plans in place to help your daughter succeed, or if you're the player, that you can give the best version of yourself. Whether that be because I see kids all the time not eating properly, not resting properly, um, too much of one sport. I'm a huge advocate of multiple sports. Do other things outside. I want to see that you have a life outside of basketball, that everything in your power doesn't wrap around whether you win or lose a game. I want it to be an indelible part of who you are, but at the same time, it can't be everything. I love when kids have outside interests. I tell people to be versatile, be Switzerland, be neutral in all things, explore different kinds of music, art, all of it. Like be a whole person. So in my conversations with prospects, I want to know what else besides basketball makes you tick. There has to be something. And if not, I don't know if that can work here because I just think humanity is such a big part of what we do and who we are, and making memories in moments matter. And if you don't have anything else besides valuing yourself, whether you make a basket or not, it's a sad, sad state of affairs. So I'm really interested in finding just whole, interesting people, curious people.
Yeah. And that's a good quote, and I don't think I'll ever forget it. I really like that one, the losers and winners. So if anybody wants to keep up with Louisville or find out more about where can they find or follow you and the
Yeah, you
team?
can find me on all social media platforms. Well, I take that back. On on X and Instagram, I'm at Vill Hoop Coach, Ville Hoop Coach. Um, for me personally, and then our Louisville women's basketball. Heck, I don't even know the handle name. You just put it in there and it shows up. Um, but I do tell people I leave Facebook to myself. I'd like to have a platform for just me and my high school friends. So that is not an option. I have a closed account there. But yeah, I mean, our website is a great place to start. I think it has everybody's handle names on there, and yeah, I'm just looking for kids that have some joy, some fun, that are intentional about their behavior and their commitment and love affair with the game.
All right, awesome. Well, Stephanie, I really appreciate your time.
No worries. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for listening. If you're looking for more specific recruiting advice based on your situation, head over to hoopsthroughlife.com today to schedule your free 30-minute strategy session with me. We will discuss where you currently are in the recruiting process, where you want to go, and create a plan to get you there. Again, that's hoopsthroughlife.com, hoopsthroughlife.com. And if you have any questions for me or questions you want me to ask future guests, you can email me at l@hoopsthroughlife.com. That's EL@hoopsthroughlife.com. I look forward to hearing from you soon.